Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today I'll tell you about how to execute the perfect return to office strategy in 4 steps. Now, navigating work arrangement decisions can be challenging. You want to make sure that you don't adopt a one-size-fits-all solution. This is something that a lot of companies think, well, we're just going to tell people to return to the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. This is going to be fine. No, that is not fine. You want to make the right choice, and if you don't, it can lead to real problems down the road. So you need a thorough, transparent, and evidence-driven process to avoid a lot of pitfalls, which we'll talk about, and to have a successful outcome. There are lots of risks to rushing your return to office plans. You can have a lot of problems with retention, recruitment, engagement, productivity, developing junior staff, innovation, and more broadly, company culture. So that's where you need to really get buy-in from your staff on hybrid work decisions. You want to make sure not only to have the right policy, but to have buy-in into the policy. And if you have a policy that seems good on paper, but you don't have employee buy-in, you'll have a lot of non-compliance, disengagement, and disgruntlement. That'll be bad. So rushing decisions without input from staff leads to a lot of resistance, attrition, disengagement, and that low morale, which you don't want to have. On the other hand, if you have employee involvement in decisions, that helps foster ownership and commitment. So make sure you get the right policy, but don't skip the steps required to get there. I'll give an example. So there was a regional insurance company that quickly rushed into making a decision on hybrid work without consulting its employees. And that decision resulted in sharp decline in employee morale, high turnover, which went to other companies. So the company really had to scramble to address the situation and change its policies and get feedback from its staff. But of course, they already ruined the first opportunity to make a good decision. Don't let this happen to your organization. And there were many surveys of leaders showing that, hey, that they acknowledge that they screwed up their initial approach and that they wish they didn't. So don't do that. So let's talk about the steps. First step is to do a survey, do a thorough survey for employees on hybrid work to gather perspectives on office return, hybrid work arrangements, which helps employees feel heard. And my book, Returning to the Office and Leading Hybrid and Remote Teams, has a very nice template, has a very nice survey template in the back, in the appendix of a survey you can do, which you can customize to your organization. Step 2, conduct focus groups based on the survey to dive deeper into the survey and understand people's motivations behind their responses, and to also help build further employee buy-in. Here's what you want to think about. Focus groups help you get insights beyond surveys. I worked with a professional service firm with about 100 employees where the survey showed a divide on remote work versus in-office work. So we used focus groups to understand what's going on, and we found that those with young kids wanted more remote work for flexibility, while junior staff wanted in-office mentoring. So we created a tailored solution that fit the needs of both groups. Now, you want to also be aware that employees talk to each other a lot about big issues, the grapevine, and the focus groups, you should use that to not only give you feedback, but also help spread useful information through the grapevine to get staff prepared for the chosen approach. Next, so you have the survey, you have the focus groups, then you want to present the findings to the C-suite. So you have a report that presents the findings, but as part of that, have one-on-one discussions with executives to gather their perspectives in order to address questions that they might have, get their thoughts on the impacts of survey and focus group, and create alignment across the leadership team. That will help you develop an agenda and priorities for the next step, which is a decision-making session. And that's the C-suite retreat on hybrid work. So have an offsite meeting for C-suite executives. The purpose is to review reports, benchmarks, and data from other companies, and of course, get the data from your own company. So compare data from your own company to the data from other companies and some best practices, weigh the pros and cons of different options, and make a really informed decision on a variety of policies around returning to the office and hybrid work. Finally, develop a plan to measure success and revise policies as needed. Here's an example of a success story. So I worked with a mid-sized company, IT company, that struggled with the transition to hybrid work. After the pandemic, they were fully remote, then they went to hybrid work. They really struggled. They had an executive offsite to analyze data and benchmarks, and that's what led to, after doing the first 3 steps, then they had the survey focus groups, then presenting the data to the C-suite, and then had the offsite. And that led to a customized work policy based on employee preferences and industry standards and their broader company culture. And this policy ended up improving employee satisfaction and productivity and collaboration. So got a lot of benefits. Make sure to refine your hybrid work policy over time. So once you choose a policy, make sure to track its progress over time to evaluate how effective it is and adjust it as needed. So for example, I worked with a large law firm in the Midwest that adopted flexible hybrid work, but it did decrease, they found, junior staff learning and integration. So we worked to adapt the policy, adding a mentoring program which ensured better performance of junior staff. How do you overcome pushback to hybrid work? Any change is met with resistance. Transitioning to hybrid work from fully remote work is not an exception. And staff are much more likely to accept the decision, even if they don't agree with all of its aspects, after they give their feedback via surveys and have their voices heard in focus groups. So to minimize pushback, you want to communicate openly with employees about what you're finding in the surveys and the focus groups. Keep them informed during implementation. Of course, don't share everything, but share important things, share what's going on, what the thinking of the leadership is, how it's evolving, and give them a platform to voice their concerns. Give them a chance to make their voices heard about it. Here's an example of a success story. I worked with a multinational consumer goods company that did face some resistance from employees when transitioning to hybrid work from remote work. And this is the back-end operations staff, not the people who are on the factory floor. And they addressed the concerns through town hall meetings. So we had a number of town hall meetings and provided employees with resources to help them adapt to the new situation, including some training. And this allowed them to win over the majority of skeptics and ensure successful transition. Remember, the human factor can make or break work arrangement success. The success of any work arrangement, fully in office, fully remote, hybrid, depends on people. So you want to really empathize with the needs and aspirations of your employees. For example, I worked with a biotech startup that chose hybrid work focused on well-being. The management showed empathy and understanding, which led to increased loyalty, productivity, and retention. So how do you lay the groundwork for a successful transition? Again, use a thorough, transparent, evidence-based approach for return to the office. Follow the 4-step approach mentioned. First, carry out a survey, then conduct focus groups, share the survey and focus group findings with the C-suite, and have an off-site meeting for the C-suite to determine the plan. This is what will help you lay the groundwork for a successful transition to hybrid work. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps other people discover the show and helps us improve the show.